evening service. There it is.
Chase felony charges.
Huh? There we are. We're connected. I don't know why that came up. That's odd. Odd. Well, we got 2 minutes here. Yeah. Everything kicks in there. Jane.
Hey, Jane.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jane.
Hi.
Hi.
So it's a bit noisy here in my backyard.
Is it?
What?
Can you hear noise?
No, not at all.
No?
No. Okay, well, that's good. If you can't hear noise, it's good. I can stay here.
Yeah, no. What are they doing? Cut down trees or something?
Yeah, they're cutting something. I can hear the machine going. Yeah.
Can't hear it.
Okay,
No.
well, that's good. I'll make sure the doors are locked for a while.
Right. How's our time? We got 1 minute. Okay. We'll
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead and
better. They're cutting the.
see. Let me just start this one first. 6 o'clock yet. Oh, it's 1 minute till. If y'all are wondering, I'm waiting till the 6 o'clock bell hits so I can turn everything on.
Hmm.
There it is. Right on the money. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on the Urantia Book, paper 129, The Later Adult Life of Jesus. And that's his 27th year, AD 21. If you're looking for this in the Bible, you won't find it there. I guarantee it. This is on page 1419 of the original Urantia Book, or paper 12901 for your information at home. And like I said, this information in this paper, none of it can be found in the Bible. So you're wasting your time if you're looking for it there. But you can find it in the Urantia Book, which we encourage you to do and read it. It will be very interesting to you. And let's get started here. Let me change the slides so that everybody can see it. There we go. And Diane, will you start out reading tonight?
Okay. The latter adult life of Jesus. Jesus had fully and finally separated himself from the management of the domestic affairs of the Nazareth family and from the immediate direction of its individuals. He continued right up to the event of his baptism to contribute to the family finances and to take a keen personal interest in the spiritual welfare of every one of his brothers and sisters. I'm not finished. I'm sorry. I just had to push that. And always was he ready to do everything humanly possible for the comfort and happiness of his widowed mother. Okay.
Okay, so Jesus was getting ready to leave the family. You got it. His house in Nazareth, never to return to live there again. So this is when he actually left the house and started his life on his own. Okay, and this is the couple years before he started his ministry, in which he worked as a boat builder for a while, and he also worked as an interpreter and went to Rome. So that's what this is the start out of all that happened during that period of time. Okay. Here and change the slide on mine, and then I'll change the other slide. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
The Son of Man had now made every preparation for detaching himself permanently from the Nazareth home. And this was not easy for him to do. Jesus naturally loved his people. He loved his family. And this natural affection had been tremendously augmented by his extraordinary devotion to them. The more fully we bestow ourselves upon our fellows, the more we come to love them. And since Jesus had given himself so fully to his family, he loved them with a great and fervent affection.
So he loves his family just like all of us love our own families, right? And it was very hard for him to leave. Lech, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. How the family had slowly awakened to the realization that Jesus was making ready to leave them. The sadness of the anticipated separation was only tempered by this graduated method of preparing them for the announcement of his intended departure. For more than 4 years, they discerned that he was planning for this eventual separation.
So they knew he was going to leave, so they were preparing themselves slowly for it, right? All right, Jane, would you take the next one, please?
In January of this year, AD 21, on a rainy Sunday morning, Jesus took unceremonious leave of his family, only explaining that he was going over to Tiberias and then on a visit to other cities about the Sea of Galilee. And thus he left them, never again to be a regular member of that household.
Okay, so you got to remember that when Jesus was doing this, during this period of time, changes here.
And
During
this is
this
the 27th year.
Yes, and this is the 27th year. Is that right? All right. This is AD 21 too. I wanted to show you all this picture. Can you see that pretty good?
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, and what I wanted to show you about this, it's hard to see, but it shows Nazareth over here. And then it shows that he left here, and I believe I have another picture here. Let's go up one more. It shows he left Nazareth and then started his tour down from Capernaum all the way down to Sapothelis eventually, I believe it was. And so it shows the dates here on this map too for y'all at home. All right, I have some really interesting pictures on this other on our regular website. When we get down that far, I'll try to show y'all some of the things that Jesus would have seen. All right, let's go on to the next one. I guess I'm up. He spent 1 week at Tiberias, the new city which was soon to succeed Sepphoris as the capital of Galilee. And finding little to interest him, he passed on successively through Magdala and Bethsaida to Capernaum, where he stopped to pay a visit to his father's friend Zebedee. Zebedee's sons were fishermen. He himself was a boat builder. Jesus of Nazareth was an expert in both design and building. He was a master at work with wood, and Zebedee had long known of the skill of the Nazareth craftsmen. For a long time, Zebedee had contemplating making improved boats. He now laid his plans before Jesus and invited the visiting carpenter to join him in the enterprise, and Jesus readily consented. So many people don't know this, but Jesus was a boat builder during this period of time. And this is how he made money, which the father Zebedee saved over a period of time that paid for a house for Mary later on, right? So that's how he completely got everybody out of debt, and he paid for the house. So he took care of his mother from then and on by providing a house for her. Another interesting thing is it doesn't mention in the Bible that Jesus was a boat builder, and he designed a new kind of boat, which is kind of interesting because this new kind of boat was safer for men. The other thing I wanted to show y'all, let me see if I got the pictures up here on these too. Well, this is the Sea of Galilee, and this is a little bit hard to see. You can see this little red bubble, but that's where Capernaum was, right there on the edge of the Sea of Galilee. Now remember, Jesus had two apostles, right, that were named Zebedee. Remember that? Okay. And John Zebedee ended up being the one that took care of Jesus's mother for a long period of time after Jesus died. But John Zebedee is the one that ended up on what? The Isle of Patmos. And he's the one that saw the revelation that the book of Revelation came from, right?
Roger, while you have this map up,
Yeah.
where is the part that he fed the 5,000? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think might
I
be
thought it was northeast of the Sea of Galilee.
Capernaum. Yeah, I think it was too. But I don't remember. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly where it was, though.
I didn't realize that Seda was up there. I thought it was closer to Capernaum.
Yeah, it is. All right, this is some pictures. Let me go over here to the actual website, because on the actual website, our website, it not only has the pictures, it has the descriptions of them. All right, and let me go. This is, yeah, you can see it much better on the other. Let me share this with y'all and see if I can't show y'all a better picture. See how this comes out. See it a little bit bigger there?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, and you can
That's
see
right.
that, you can see Capernaum right there on the edge, and Bethsaida is right here.
Interesting.
You see that, Rodney?
Yep.
Okay, and that is, I think that's close to where he fed the 5,000.
It must be.
Yeah. All right. This is the remains of Capernaum, where he had the boat shop. Y'all remember the story about the boat shop we just talked about? And that's the ruins of it. And this is the synagogue of of Capernaum. The ruins of and this is what's, according to tradition, is Peter's house.
Oh.
Peter the apostle. Okay. And there's another picture of it.
And that is very close to Capernaum, isn't it? The house of the... Yeah. I've been there a couple of times. I've seen all these sites.
Really?
Yeah, and Nazareth too.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
I went twice. First on my own, and then I went with my husband. As you know, we married later. And he had never been. And I said, well, we need to make that trip.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, before I stop showing you these pictures and go back to the slides, I wanted to show you this boat. You see this boat? This is ruins of a 2,000-year-old boat, which was been during the time of Jesus. So Jesus may have made this boat. That's the whole point. And we'll go back up to the paragraphs here in a minute.
And Roger, is that
Yes.
boat, does it have the same form? Like it's very intricate and it's all interwoven with each other,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why they
The
think it
ark,
may have been the design that Jesus made.
yes, but it was also, I think, the Ark of Noah. The boat, was it Noah with the flood?
Yeah, yeah, but we got to remember that is a myth, right?
Oh, that's a
Noah,
myth.
yeah, Noah made boats and put all of his animals on it every time the river would flood, and that's how the whole legend of Noah's Ark came
Okay.
about. Okay,
So that never happened, that flood like that, and saving the
no,
people.
no, not that killed
Okay.
all the people.
Okay.
No, no, there was
Jesus, what
never.
that
There
this
was,
boat may be the boat. Do you know where it's located now, where they found it?
yeah, it's right there in Capernaum, I
Okay.
believe. Let me go down here a little ways and widen this just a tad. Can y'all still see that?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can widen this till we can get all of it. So this boat witness the events sweeping over the Sea of Galilee in Jesus' time? Is this the boat that bore the Nazarene and his disciples to the surrounding villages to preach the gospel to the people? Perhaps this was an ordinary fisherman's craft which was converted for use in battle in the first great century Jewish rebellion against the Romans. Or was it simply a fishing boat that plied the waters in quest of daily catch until it was scuttled and abandoned on the shores? And now, the other interesting part about this is it was made by the steaming methods that Jesus came up with during his time building boats. So Jesus taught him how to steam the wood, to bend the wood to stay in a bent position, which made it safer. Okay, that's why they think it may have been a boat that Jesus may have made himself, which is kind of interesting, right?
I did that myself in Alaska,
Yeah.
building my dog sled.
Uh-huh.
I had to steam
Steam
the
the
wood for the
wood
runner,
and yeah.
front of it,
That is so cool.
to bend it.
And it's got some other information about the boat and stuff. You can look it up on our website, Fifth Ethical Revelation. I'm not going to go into each and everything because we need to go back up and pick up these last two paragraphs up here.
Yeah,
Last
steaming wood. You would pull it out from being steamed, and it was like a wet noodle.
Yeah, you just move it to the shape you wanted it, couldn't you? Pretty much.
Can I make a comment about
Yeah.
Jane's inquiry about Noah's Ark?
Yeah.
Scholars have, well, many biblical scholars have determined that the myth of Noah's Ark came from the Gilgamesh epic, which was a Syrian writing, a very long sort of poem, and it
Right.
describes very similar circumstances of someone building a boat and putting animals in there to survive
Yeah.
for a big flood, and that's pretty much been verified. And there are other similar stories from that period of
Yeah.
someone being in a boat or an ark, if you want to call it that.
Well, I'm going to make all the Baptists mad, but the reason I brought that up is they're still looking for the Ark of Noah,
Yeah.
right? And in the Urantia book, it tells us that Noah lived on the river basically with his families, and several times when it would flood, he would put all of his family and all of his animals on the boat, and so that's where this legend about him came up. But it's this legend that's been going around for hundreds of thousands of years. The other interesting thing is this: that the world was never covered in water again once it was populated by human beings. That's a myth. That God didn't ever deluge the whole world with water to kill off people. That did not happen. Okay,
Right.
and that's what we've been taught our whole lives. There was three great floods in the planet, but before people started living on the planet. till we started evolving. But that was before
Right.
human beings really lived on the planet. So there was never a great flood deluge that wiped out all the population of the planet. Now, in different areas, there was always constantly floods that came and went and that sort of thing. But they were not, they did not cover the whole world. Certain areas would flood out, just like areas flood out now. You know, if we have earthquakes and stuff, we have tsunamis that wipe out whole civilizations, doesn't it? You know, the same
Yeah.
thing happened back then, you know. So because the people only had the eyesight of where they were, they believed the whole world was underwater, you know. I mean, it makes sense. So all you Baptists out there, don't get mad at me because I say that Noah didn't ever take every animal on the planet and put on a boat. He just didn't do it. You know, it's ridiculous. But there's people, grown men and scientists and everything else, they're still on what, Ararat, still looking for Noah's Ark where it was supposed to have landed, right? So good luck with that search. I'm not going to spend my time doing that. I can tell you that. But anyway, the other thing is knowing God the Father as we do from this book, we know that God the Father would never wipe out his own civilization all over the world because people were bad, right? That's just that's
His
God.
arrogant children.
Yeah,
He wouldn't do that.
yeah, he wouldn't do that. It's ridiculous,
And
right? That's
babies
nothing.
aren't bad. How could you go about killing babies?
Yes,
They're not
I mean
bad.
it's ridiculous. So anyway, now I can get some hate mail going this week. So I need some more hate mail. I hadn't had any hate mail in a while, so might as well get my quote in this week. Okay, let's keep going. This is some more pictures. We talked about these. This is the synagogue there, Peter's house, right? And they all lived there in Capernaum. Okay, let's see. I lost track of who was reading.
I think Diane reads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus worked with Zebedee only a little more than 1 year, but during that time he created a new style of boat and established entirely new methods of boat making. By superior technique and greatly improved methods of steaming the boards, Jesus and Zebedee began to build boats of a very superior type, craft which were far more safe for sailing the lake than were the older types. For several years, Zebedee had more work turning out these new style boats than his small establishment could handle. In less than 5 years, practically all the craft on the lake had been built in the shop of Zebedee at Capernaum. Jesus became well known to the Galilean fisher folk as a designer of the new boats.
You're muted, Roger.
There it is. That's where they tell us that it was Jesus's design of steaming the boards that came up with this new design of boat. And so him and the father Zebedee, the father of the two boys, the younger man Zebedee's, became partners in building these boats. And that's where, as they start selling these boats, and when Jesus decided to leave, because he designed all these boats, Zebedee, the father, felt like he should give half of the proceeds to Jesus. So this is where all this money started accumulating. So they invested this money in properties that they rented out. So this money that Jesus was making, he didn't know he was making, was going to James, his brother, to take care of his mother. Okay, so that's how this works out. So for about a year, he built boats before he decided to leave. So this is where this whole thing about the boat builder come in. And this is not mentioned anywhere in the New Testament, is it? Have you ever found it? I haven't.
No, it states that Jesus was a carpenter.
Yeah, that's about it, right? All right. And here we go. Who's up next? Is it Rodney? I believe you're up next.
Okay. Zebedee was a moderately well-to-do man. His boat building shops were on the lake to the south of Capernaum, and his home was situated down the lake shore near the fishing headquarters of Bethsaida. Jesus lived in the home of Zebedee during the year, and more, he remained at Capernaum. He had long worked alone in the world, that is, without a father, and had greatly enjoyed this period of working with a father partner.
Okay. Yeah.
Roger, I should point out that according to this, Bethsaida was south, a little south of Capernaum.
Yeah, it shows that on that map. It's a little bit south of Capernaum.
Well, on that map you showed us, it showed it was northeast of Capernaum. And that's what
Let
confused
me go over this picture here.
me. It's might confuse me a little.
It does kind of look a little northeast, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I don't.
No. You're talking about Bethsaida Julius. It's definitely south. Let me bring this picture back up here again. I got it on the other screen. Let me show you what I'm talking about, Rodney, so that you know. I'll come back up. Okay, you could. I don't know if you can see this well enough, but
Yeah, that's a hard one to see.
yeah, but Bethsaida is right here.
There you go.
Where the arrow is.
Correct.
And Capernaum is up here.
Yeah.
So it would be south.
Okay.
Okay. Let me go back up here. Stop the share and we share back to this. Okay. All right. Did I go down some? I've lost my bearings here. Oh, no, I'm fine. This is the boat in the slides that shows the boat types that Jesus built. And there are the curved boards that they steamed. All right. And then that's the mystery of the boats themselves. And there's another picture. And this is about the rebellion during the Roman times. And here's another picture of the type of boards and stuff. Now, this you can go into a museum there. Jane, did you happen to see that when you were there? She's still there?
No, I did not do museums in the Holy Land.
Okay.
No, I didn't do that.
All right. I just wonder if you got to see this. Let me read this little blurb on this too. It says many chapters. Let me go down here and do it on mine. Be easier to see. My eyes are failing. I've been working too hard on the book I've been working on. Many chapters in the life of Jesus were enacted on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, where he stayed at Capernaum after coming down from his native town of Nazareth. Jesus lived among the fishermen, accompanying them on their night watch and ministering to them in sickness and in sorrow. From their boats, he preached to them as they sailed the waters of the Sea of Galilee. Simon Peter and Andrew, the sons of Jonah. That's interesting, isn't it? Talks about Simon Peter and Andrew, the two first apartments. And it doesn't mention Jonah very much in the book. It's interesting that it mentions this here. And Jacob and John, the sons of Zebedee, which is misspelled, were faithful pupils of Jesus, and he promised to make these
fishers of fish, fishers of men.
Fishers of men. Yeah.
That's right. Funny. Jacob and John Zebedee.
Jacob,
where they got that from?
I don't know. Do not know.
Jacob. Was that supposed to be James?
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be James. It's not Jacob. Yeah, James and John Zebedee were his sons. Now,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I think he
And
may have had another son that was named Jacob too, that didn't follow Jesus.
Oh, well, I know David had 3 sons and several daughters.
Yeah. All right. Let's read this one too. Let's see who read just now. Rodney, did you just read?
No, I think Diane did.
Diane, Rodney, could you read this little slide too for me?
Yes. During the drought of 1986, the receding waters of the Sea of Galilee yielded hints of a wooden object embedded in the silt a few hundred meters south of Kibbutz
Nazareth. Yeah.
After 2,000 years, the ancient vessel emerged from the depths into the light of day. Archaeologists, scientists, and volunteers from that place and elsewhere toiled night and day to free the boat from the dense layer of mud that clung to it. 3 days later, the water table began to rise, threatening to flood the boat. An earthen bolster was hastily built around the boat, and the water was pumped out into the sea. After 10 days and nights, the boat stood on safe ground.
So that's how they recovered it. And this is in 1986 that this happened. There's the boat again. Says, can you read that, Letch? Can you see that?
Yes. How was the boat dredged from the seafloor? No one expected the boat to be brought to shore unharmed, and some experts proposed leaving it on the site and building a display pavilion around it. The perfect solution was found to be polyurethane foam, a light material enfolding the entire boat in a kind of floating wrapper in which the craft was free to sail into safe harbor.
So they put polyurethane foam around it and floated it back to the shore. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Now, this is not out of the book, but I thought it was interesting enough to put it on our website with the pages in the book, because it kind of tells you the background of some of the stuff that happened to the boats that Jesus is believed to build. That's why I included this in with this. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Zebedee's wife, Salome, was a relative of Anna's, one time high priest at Jerusalem and still the most influential of the Sadducean group, having been deposed only 8 years previously. Salome became a great admirer of Jesus. She loved him as she loved her own sons, James, John, and David, while her 4 daughters looked upon Jesus as their elder brother. Jesus often went out fishing with James, John, and David, and they learned that he was an experienced fisherman as well as an expert boat builder.
Okay, so there's the the brothers, James, John, and David Zebedee, right? Okay. The other thing I want to point out about this paragraph is Salome became a believer in Jesus, and yet, do y'all remember who Annas was? Anybody remember? Huh?
Yeah, he was the highest priest. He's the one that, and the Romans, the Roman leaders would come to. He spoke for the Jews.
Yeah, and it was because of him that Jesus was crucified. Remember that?
The high priest.
Okay, because he was the high priest.
Sanhedrin.
Huh?
In the Sanhedrin?
And the Sanhedrin. And he was part of the Sadducean group who was totally against Jesus. Okay. And so,
Roger,
yeah.
does it say somewhere in the book where Jesus said to him, didn't I know you? Didn't we spend time together?
He did.
Oh,
He
he
I
did.
did.
He
remember
reminded
reading
him. He reminded him when he lived in Capernaum that they spent much time together, along with his wife Salome, right? And so it's interesting. I believe it says in the book during the crucifixion time that she told Annas over and over again not to have anything to do with Jesus because she believed in him. And she thought if he was going to do anything bad to him, that he would pay the price of it. So it's interesting how the husband was the cause of Jesus's death, and the wife believed in him even back then.
Hmm.
So you just never know how things work out in life, right? Life is strange. Okay, let's move on. I guess I'm up. All this year, Jesus sent money each month to James. He returned to Nazareth in October to attend Martha's wedding, and he was not again in Nazareth for over 2 years. When he returned shortly before the double wedding of Simon and Jude, okay, another double wedding. All right, so he was gone for 2 years. During that 2 years, all this money was building up from his boats, right? Okay, Diane.
Throughout this year, Jesus built boats and continued to observe how men lived on earth. Frequently, he would go down to visit at the caravan station, Capernaum being on the direct travel route from Damascus
Yeah.
to the south. Capernaum was a strong Roman military post, and the garrison's commanding officer was a Gentile believer in Yahweh, a devout man, as the Jews were wont to designate such proselytes. Thank you, honey. This officer belonged to a wealthy Roman family, and he took it upon himself to build a beautiful synagogue in Capernaum, which had been presented to the Jews a short time before Jesus came to live with Zebedee. Jesus conducted the services in this new synagogue more than half the time this year, and some of the caravan people who chanced to attend remembered him as a carpenter from Nazareth.
You're muted, Roger.
Now you see why I put the pictures of the ruins of the synagogue in there. You remember the pictures? This is the synagogue that the Roman centurion built in Capernaum there. Okay? It's interesting how things work out and fit together. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. When it came to the payment of taxes, Jesus registered himself as a skilled craftsman of Capernaum. From this day on to the end of his earthly life, he was known as a resident of Capernaum. He never claimed any other legal residence, although he did, for various reasons, permit others to assign his residence to Damascus, Bethany, Nazareth, and even Alexandria.
Y'all realize why he did that? Interesting how all this fits together. He was the scribe of Damascus. Remember the stories about the scribe of Damascus, and no one knew who he was?
It's interesting that he never corrected them. He just let them believe it.
Yeah, let him believe it. And then he was the philosopher of Alexandria, too. So, he had all these different lives during his period of time and things he did, but he did that on purpose to keep people from connecting them all together and building up a life which it would overawe people, right? Okay. I'm going to start taping my mouth every time I say right. Okay, here we go. Latch, would you take the next one?
Okay. At the Capernaum synagogue, he found many new books in the library chests, and he spent at least 5 evenings a week at intense study. One evening he devoted to social life with the older folks, and one evening he spent with the young people. There was something gracious and inspiring about the personality of Jesus, which invariably attracted young people. He always made them feel at ease in his presence. Perhaps his great secret in getting along with them consisted in the twofold fact that he was always interested in what they were doing, while he seldom offered them advice unless they asked for it.
So he worked all day and then studied all night, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a busy man. Okay. Jane, would you take the next one?
The Zebedee family almost worshipped Jesus, and they never failed to attend the conferences of questions and answers, which he conducted each evening after supper before he departed for the synagogue to study. The youthful neighbors also came in frequently to attend these after supper meetings. To these little gatherings, Jesus gave varied and advanced instructions, just as advanced as they could comprehend. He talked quite freely with them, expressing his ideas and ideals about politics, sociology, science, and philosophy, but never presumed to speak with authoritative finality, except when discussing religion, the relation of man to God.
Okay, so now you can kind of understand some of the things about this book just hit you in the face as you read it. You can understand why Jesus didn't teach advanced concepts like I taught in the classes we had, the 26 weeks of classes. He didn't teach about the Trinity. He didn't teach that he was not the second part of the Trinity, the Son, the infinite Son. Instead of as the Son of God, he was a creator son. He never taught them that he was a creator son or anything like that, because the concepts that he knew were so advanced that the people during that time, if he started talking about that stuff, they would have no idea what the heck he was talking about, would they?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it makes sense that he didn't talk a lot about this. So we had to wait until 1934 when we were given a revelation. At that point, we were supposed to be advanced enough to start to be able to comprehend the more advanced concepts, weren't we? Okay. The trouble is this. The trouble is this. We are lazy as human beings. Okay. It takes intellectual stamina to develop new concepts in religion and philosophy and things that are a little bit more advanced. So it takes a lot of effort to try to understand, to put the pieces together, doesn't it?
Yes,
And
it does.
and that's where the problem comes in. So when they gave us this revelation, they knew that our brains were capable of understanding it. They didn't realize that most of us are so lazy that our brains will not take the time to develop the concepts and thoughts. Okay, and that's what the problem is right there. We're so busy drinking, smoking, and running around each other like a bunch of little monkeys, that we don't want to take the time to learn things that are spiritual and things that will help us into the future in the ancient worlds. So that's the rub, as they say. So that's where we are. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Let's see here. Who's up next? I'm lost again.
I think you are.
Oh, am I? Okay. Once a week, Jesus held a meeting with the entire household shop and shore helpers, for Zebedee had many employees. And it was among these workers that Jesus first called the Master. They all loved him. He enjoyed his labors with Zebedee in Capernaum, but he missed the children playing outside by the side of the Nazareth carpenter shop. Now, I have a bunch of pictures here, which I'm going to refer back over here.
What is that?
That's what I'm going to have to refer back to. It's been so long since I put these on here, y'all.
Probably the Capernaum synagogue.
Yeah, let me look down here. It's on our website. These are all on our website, and I put the descriptions along with the pictures on our website, and I didn't do it on the slides. At least I don't think I did. Hang on, let me see if I did on this one. White limestone synagogue dating from the 4th and 5th century AD. Recent excavations show, hang on, let me make this a little bigger so I can read it. Black basalt synagogue built during the first half of the 1st century, but only the foundation walls and other fragments below the white synagogue. So that's a white synagogue. You were right, Rodney. And this is more of the same synagogue. Oh, sorry, y'all. I'm changing mine. Forgot to change yours. There you go. All right. This is more of the synagogue. It's even got, you'll notice on the post here, it's got inscriptions on it. I guess that's how they know what it is. Okay, let me go down to this one. Yeah. Let me go down to the next one. And this is another picture of the synagogue post, I believe. Let me go down here to my descriptions of these. White limestone synagogue dating to the 4th and 5th. It's the same synagogue. And so is the next picture. Oops, went too far. Let me go back up one. Kind of ornate, weren't they?
Very.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And here's another picture from, this was inside the synagogue because that's the outside wall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another of the outside
Wow.
wall. And Jane's going to be bored. She's seen all these probably.
No, I'm enjoying them. It's good memory. I
Yeah,
have short-term memory loss now, like I lose memory.
yeah. I don't remember what I had for breakfast anymore.
Same here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. More of the synagogue. Okay. This next one is different, though, I believe. It's got a plaque on it. See if I can find it here. This says, inscription says, Alphaeus, son of Zebedee, the son of John, made this column. Maybe it was made for him for a blessing. We don't know if it's the same Zebedee's or not. You know, it may have been misspelled. And these are mixing urns, if I remember correctly. And this is one of those rolling rocks. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all can't see these. Some mixing urns. And these were used to grind corn and things like that, or olive presses, that sort of thing.
Press, probably.
Yeah. And I got a couple more here. I know this might be boring, but I found them interesting. And this is another, shows a track in this one. Another stone rolling thing. All right. Okay here, Diane, I believe you're up next.
Of the sons of Zebedee, James was the most interested in Jesus as a teacher, as a philosopher. John cared most for his religious teaching and opinions. David respected him as a mechanic, but took little stock in his religious views and philosophical teachings.
So David Zebedee, who became a great believer, took very little stock in his teachings back then. Just another worker. All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Frequently, Jude came over on the Sabbath to hear Jesus talk in the synagogue and would tarry to visit with him. And the more Jude saw of his eldest brother, the more he became convinced that Jesus was a truly great man.
So as Jude grew up, he became a little more level-headed, didn't he? All right. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Yeah. This year, Jesus made great advances in the ascended mastery of his human mind and attained new and high levels of conscious contact with his indwelling thought adjuster.
Okay, so Jesus learned how to contact and discuss things with his own thought adjuster. I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, Jane, would you take the next one?
This was the last year of his settled life. Never again did Jesus spend the whole year in one place or at one undertaking. The days of his earth pilgrimages were rapidly approaching. Periods of intense activity were not far in the future, but they were now about to intervene between his simple but intensely active life of the past and his still more intense and strenuous public ministry. A few years of extensive travel and highly diversified personal activity. His training as a man of the realm had to be completed before he could enter upon his career of teaching and preaching as the perfected God-man of the divine and post-human phases of his Urantia bestowal.
Okay, so this is very important, the fact that Jesus worked building boats for this year. And after this year, he stopped doing manual labor type stuff, right? And he started doing more spiritual or more psychological, philosophical things like that that could help him build up his personality to prepare him for a teaching son of God. And that took a couple of years. And during that period of time, yeah, yeah, that's really what I did, wasn't it? So he went from doing physical labor to do more of a mental labor and preparing himself to do things spiritually in his life to serve God. And it took a couple of years to do that. And during that period of time is when he was an interpreter for a merchant for a couple of years. He went to Rome and then things like that. And during this period of time, he gained experience communicating with a lot of different sorts of people over time. And he did that on purpose so that he could build his character and his personality in preparations for his preaching and teaching before the end of his life. So he was really preparing for his what? His Urantia bestowal for these next couple of years. So this was right before his 28th year. So between his 28th year and the next couple of years is when he was, if you would, he was in his spiritual college. Think about it. Because he was training himself, getting him ready to teach massive amounts of people. And this is right before his 28th year. And I'm going to break here tonight because I don't want to break this up for the next time because this needs to be taught consecutively together. Okay. So let's go to the prayer of acceptance tonight. Anybody have any questions about this period of time of Jesus or anything?
No,
anything?
No, what stands out from what you explained and what you read, Roger, what stands out to me is like when we were reading about he never corrected anybody. He was never, even when he spoke to them, he didn't make it final,
No,
and he waited
he didn't
for
debate
people
with him either, right, Jane? He didn't debate at all, right?
And he waited for people to ask him questions.
Yes.
And then when he's in ministry, then he changes completely. He's very authoritative, and he's speaking with authority. And
he went from ask your questions of me and I'll tell you the answers to this is the way it is. This is what you need to know.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
That stands out. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was his training. This is one of the reasons he became an interpreter for a couple of years and went to Rome and things like that, because he needed the experience of interacting with different types of people other than just the Jews. Okay. So he needs to interact with all types of people. So when he's teaching, he teaches in such a way that it's just not for the Jewish people. It's for everyone that could hear his voice, really.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. All right, let's do the prayer of acceptance for tonight. I think I'll say it for tonight. I haven't done it for a while. Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God, and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, is Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the paradise Father. In the name of Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And we'll take it up from the 28th year, AD 22, next time. That will be Tuesday. Now, I want to remind everybody out there that can come. I'll be teaching Sunday, continue teaching the Mansion Worlds. We're going back over it again. We just taught it last year, but I felt that was good enough that we needed to go back over a lot of good stuff in the Mansion World papers. And that will be Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll be sending out the meeting notice, and it will be posted on the podcast, so you can see it on the podcast if you don't get the meeting notices, or if you're on YouTube. And I want to impress everyone to go out and subscribe on YouTube for me. I'm trying to build up my membership to at least 500 on YouTube. We've been out there about 14, 15 years now, and we still haven't reached 500. Now I've got 800 and something on Facebook, and not on YouTube. So all y'all out in Facebook, go over to YouTube and subscribe there too. So get the membership up a little bit. All right. And thank you all for coming. We love you. Hope you'll come see us Sunday. And we'll continue on here Tuesday. You're welcome, y'all.
Love you guys.
Y'all have a good weekend. And if I may see some of you Sunday, you can make it.